Thanks everybody for joining us for our going virtual scouting meetings. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to do this. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you get some things out of this meeting and know that myself, Liz Paul, and Alex Osterberg, we're available anytime if you need us. Just let us know how we can help. My name is Eric Kari. For those that don't know, I'm a district director in the Twin Valley Council. I live in Fairmont, and Alex Osterberg, who's also with us, is in New Ulm, and then Liz Paul is in Mankato. So we're going to start out, next slide, please, and we're going to start with some of the technology sides of things. So in doing a little bit of research, I'm very familiar with Zoom, a little bit of Google Meet, a little bit of Skype, never used Facebook Messenger Rooms, but those seem to be the four biggest players out there. There's certainly others, but these seem to be the most talked about and the most used right now. I would say most kids are using some of these for school. But again, those are the biggest ones. GoToMeeting is something that's been out there for a while, but it's a paid-only version, our paid-only program. FaceTime, Duo, which are smartphone apps, have no screen share or chat function, and they're pretty much limited to the devices they're on. So again, Zoom, Google Meet, Facebook, Messenger Rooms, and Skype are the ones that I'm encouraging folks to consider using. Next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the differences between them, all four services, some of the similarities. Zoom is something we're using tonight. So if you've never been on Zoom before, that's what we're using. We sent out a link. You click the link and it takes you to the meeting. So it's pretty straightforward. All four of these programs are very similar in that you provide a link to everybody and they connect up. You don't have to have any sort of account to get on, though the person starting the meetings has to have some sort of account, but for the most part, just getting on, you don't need an account. The kind of couple features that are specific to Zoom, you can easily share files and conduct polls. So if you want to ask some questions, what's every Scout's favorite summer camp, kind of thing, or what when we can get back together, what kinds of activities do we want to do? You can ask those questions. You can share files. There's breakout rooms, so if you wanted to break out by patrol, you could do that. You could have a main meeting and then break out by patrol. The one sort of downside to Zoom, unless you have a paid version, is you're limited to 40 minutes. Now, we have found that some units at times will have, Zoom won't kick you off, I guess. But if it does, the quickest remedy is just click the link and log back in. So and then you have another 40 minutes. But 40 minutes, I think, is a fair amount of time for most units to meet, particularly online. So, but otherwise, again, pretty straightforward. Next slide. Google Meet, very, very similar to Zoom's, got very similar features. Again, all of the programs we're going to talk about, you can use on a smartphone or a computer. So especially for people that maybe don't have the greatest Wi-Fi at home, you can pull it up on your phone and you'll be fine. Just make sure that you know what your data plan limits are so your kids don't eat up all your data. Again, share a link to connect. The nice thing about this is there are some schools that are using Google Classroom. And we found out on the Cub Scout version of this, we had somebody that was using Google Classroom, which connects to Google Meet, to be able to do that. I was told that the only thing you can't do is you can't use the Gmail account that kids use for Google Classroom for them to be able to get online. Otherwise, you can use Google Classroom to be able to connect up. So next slide. Messenger Rooms, this is a Facebook product. You don't have to have a Facebook account to use it. Let me back up. Whoever's running the meeting has to have a Facebook account. You create a link to send everybody, and those people do not have to have Facebook. So if somebody says, I don't use Facebook, they don't have to have a Facebook account to do this. There is no chat function, so you can't chat like we can here. If you saw earlier, I said, hey, we're going to start in a minute. I can share that with everybody, or I can share that with one person, but it has no chat function. You are limited to 50 people, where the others have limits of 100. Again, I don't foresee most units ever reaching this limit, but in case you would, again, that's what you're limited to. Next slide. And then Skype. Skype has been around for quite a while. Started out as just basically a telephone calling program, and then they added video. And so again, a very basic program. You know, all these programs you can use. You can screen share, so you can, like what we're doing now, we're sharing a PowerPoint. You can screen share videos. So there's a lot of different things you can do with them. Again, no sign up is required, so you don't have to have a, you know, other than the person that's setting this up, you really don't have to have a Skype account. So you can just send them a link and here you go. Next slide. This is just my own personal recommendation. So if you are maybe a little more tech savvy, you want something that's fully functional where you can just do a lot of different things, then probably Zoom is the way you want to go. If you're looking for something just basic, you just want to just something you can click and you're online and you don't have to worry about what are the 10 things you can click. Google Meet, Facebook Messenger Rooms, and Skype are probably the route you want to go. I jokingly say you don't have to feel like you have a PhD to use those programs. So again, pretty basic. Ultimately, I would say use whatever the kids are using for school if possible, because they're used to using that. So in terms of navigating the technology, knowing how to get online and troubleshooting problems, you know, that's the route to go. But again, whatever works best for you, and you certainly can try them out and see what works. Next slide. In some cases, you're going to need some storage. So, you know, you create worksheets the kids need to download. You have maybe a plan for an upcoming camp out that you're working on, maybe some summer camp plans, you know, some different things that you're working on, and you just need a place to put it all so that everybody can access it anytime they want without having to email them this stuff all the time. So the three that I kind of picked, and there are certainly, again, others out there, Google Drive and Dropbox are probably the two most popular ones. Somebody signs up for an account with those, they're free. And then you can share individual files, you can share whole folders, you can allow other people to upload stuff to them. So again, it's a great place to store stuff. If your unit has a Facebook group, not a page is kind of like a public website, where the Facebook group is typically a private thing that, you know, only the members of your unit can see. There is storage there as well. So again, a place you can put stuff, but in that case, you do have to have a Facebook account to access the Facebook group. So that's the one downside of using that, is if not all your kids and parents are on Facebook, they're not going to be able to access it. So next slide. And then here's some links to get to these. We'll be emailing this along with the PowerPoint out so that you have all this stuff, but these are links to get directly to these services. Again, they are all free. Zoom and Google Meet have paid versions that you can purchase if you so choose, but from what I can tell, most units are probably okay with the free versions of all of these. You know, and we're happy to help you, you know, figure out what works best for your unit or navigate some things if you need some help. So that's the end of my portion. I'm going to turn it over to Alex to talk more about resources.
All right, so there is certainly a little bit less that was put out from Boy Scouts of America for virtual scouting for the older kids, but I wanted to highlight some of the features of Scout Book that are going to be particularly helpful for working with like scouts, parents, families that are completing stuff at home. For those of you that are not already on Scout Book or don't already use it, it's essentially a dashboard for your unit, for your troop, that links to My.Scouting. So if you have a My.Scouting account, which you do if you've taken youth protection training, then you can log into Scout Book. Now, of course, for me, I log in and I see nothing because I'm not affiliated with the troop, but there is a sandbox version that lets you kind of play around without being registered if you needed that for any reason. But essentially, you'll log in as yourself, and then you'll see the roster, you'll see all of the kids in the troop, and the parents will be able to see the same thing from the scouting app. So Scout Book connects to not only the My.Scouting, but the scouting app as well. That's your sort of parent portal into it, where they'll see kind of what we're seeing here with the scout's name, their rank, and then it'll do the math for you as far as advancement. So as you add what they've completed, it'll tell you where they're at, what they've got left to level up to go to the next rank. And then, the parents will be able to see that too. And then one of the other things that you can do that you may not realize if you are already using Scoutbook is not only can you go in, of course, and mark off their advancement tasks, but you can also add activities. So you can put in something else that you want to track and that you want the parents/scouts to be able to track. So you can add an activity like, say, nights camping, if they're, camping at home or on their own time, or service hours. Let's say if you're working on, a citizenship merit badge and they have to complete service hours on their own time, the parent will be able to go in and track those things. Or like number of miles hiked, you can add an activity for miles hiked, and then the parent or the scout will be able to go in and track that and report on it, to do the requirements that you might not be able to do as a group, basically. And then and then I also wanted to point out that you do not need a hard copy of a blue card when you are working on merit badges. You used to need the actual physical blue card. You do not need that anymore. Now that Scout Book is available for everyone, the blue card and the Scout Book record are essentially one and the same. So for Merit Badge Midway coming up, for example, the kids that are doing virtual merit badges for Merit Badge Midway, the counselors will take attendance. The completion of what they did online will get recorded, in this case by myself because it's a council event, but it'll get recorded online and then it'll show up in the My.Scouting or Scout Book for the unit and the scout. And the scout will be able to go in to their registration and print off a blue card, so to speak, for their troop, to get the awards for them and that sort of thing. And the parents and the Scoutmaster Key 3 will be able to see that that's completed too once it gets entered. Next slide, yeah. And a couple of the other little changes that I wanted to draw your attention to during COVID, so like during this period of quarantine, etc., you do have the option to complete Scoutmaster conferences via video conferencing like this. So in the guide to advancement, if you're looking at it, I know you're not looking at it right now, but if you're familiar, it says that you should not conduct Scoutmaster conferences online. Technically, it does not say must not. It just says should not. And the BSA has put out that they have clarified that guideline to say that as long as your youth protection requirements are met, you can do that. And parents can now sign off on Arrow of Light requirements too. I know for most of you, you're not keeping track of tracking Arrow of Lights, but for those of you that work with both units, or if you're keeping track of crossover and you get questions about that, right now during COVID, parents are able to sign off on those types of requirements before crossover. Oh, go back. Not that's forward. I'm not done yet. Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway. So one of the almost done, but one of the things I wanted to, so for virtual merit badges specifically, for the Eagle required merit badges, almost all of them can be done virtually. I'll send out a link this week when we send out kind of a follow-up to this meeting. We'll send out some of these links and resources and stuff, and I'll be sure to include this list of virtual merit badges. But the ones that you can do, the citizenship merit badges, first aid, communication, cooking, environmental science, sustainability. The only exception with personal fitness is that they have to visit the dentist. Obviously, you are not going to have them all on Zoom getting their checkup at the dentist's office, but that is something that they can do on their own time. And the rest could be recorded through those activities that we talked about in Scout Book, the different activities that they have to do for that merit badge. Personal management can be done virtually. Family life can be done virtually. That's another one we will be doing this Saturday. The only ones that you cannot complete virtually, for those of you that have kids that are getting to the end right now during quarantine, the ones you really can't do online are emergency preparedness, camping, and then cycling slash swimming slash hiking for obvious reasons. With emergency preparedness, there's a lot of like group work with other people. That's going to be a little bit tricky. But they have made some new rules for camping specifically so that you can get that one done. Alternatively, by either hiking a mountain that's 1,000 feet, backpack, snowshoe, or cross-country ski for 4 miles, take a bike trip of at least 15 miles or 4 hours, take a non-motorized trip on the water of at least 4 hours or 5 miles, plan and carry out an overnight snow camping experience, which is still just doing camping, but in the snow, obviously, and then rappel down a rappel route of 30 feet or more. So those are your options to come to that will count in place of the camping merit badge if you cannot figure out how to do that virtually. And all of those things are activities that parents can track in Scout Book that, you know, kids can work on their own. And then one of the last, you know, things I wanted to mention and kind of the big conversation I want to have for this meeting and at the end is that, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use all of the resources and videos and stuff that are out there. You know, for example, some of the merit badges might require you to tour a museum or attend, you know, visit your city council, something like that. And those meetings, those tours that can be done virtually can be done virtually. You can tour museums online. You can attend a court hearing online by requesting that you attend through the Minnesota government. And you know, and all of those things count. There's videos out there made by other councils, other scouters, you know, that already exist that you can use. There's no reason, you know, a lot of the work has been done for you and the content has been made. Don't feel like you need to create all of these videos and content and stuff to share when, you know, it is out there and you can use it. That was my last kind of thing there. And then I'll pass it over to Liz to talk about her youth protection training.
All right, so couple things that I have to share with you today. First of all, is when we are meeting online, just like when we are meeting in person, it is imperative that we are following all of our safe scouting rules. So all of our youth protection policies apply. In addition, we have some specific ones for digital communications and social media. So I have some links to those. Those will go out with the slides if you want those specific links. The bottom line, though, is 2 deep leadership is required for all online meetings. This includes any patrol meetings, any troop meetings, including Scoutmaster conferences, and any advancements meetings as well. So make sure that you have 2 deep leadership for these meetings. If it is an issue to have an extra one, consider meeting, you know, see if there is someone from perhaps the AOL Den leader, maybe they would be willing to come from the pack and sit in on a meeting. You know, it's not too hard to sit in on a meeting, but we do need to be following that 2D leadership. Likewise, make sure we're following through on the making sure we have no direct online communication between leaders and scouts. So we want to always make sure we are speaking to the group. We are not communicating directly to scouts or privately to scouts. So we always want to be copying a parent or other leader or talking to the group in general. And that would include email, but it would also include things like chat in Zoom and stuff like that. We do want to safeguard personal information online. So be mindful about what we collect and what we would put out online. So we don't want to put any scouts information out online, for example. And we only want to use images of scouts where we have permission to. Likewise, we are not allowed to record online meetings with scouts. To clarify, scouts may record themselves. So for example, if they were to record a flag ceremony and submit it, that would be okay. If they were to record something for a movie making badge, that would be okay. They are allowed to record something themselves and submit it or use it for something. But we as a group are not allowed to record them. So where that comes is, you know, we can record this meeting virtually, but if we were having a virtual merit badge class, we would not be recording that because scouts would be online, for example. Likewise, we don't want to collect personal information from youth, particularly for those under age 13. And this is found in those social media guidelines as well. Now I'm going to spend just a little bit of talking about some building blocks about what makes for a good virtual meeting. And the reason I'm talking about building blocks is because every unit is in kind of a different place with what you're working on, where your advancement is. You have patrols at different levels, you have scouts at different levels. So a lot of this is going to have to tailor to you, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone who wants to talk about a specific troop situation about, well, here's what we were working on, how do we go virtual? But in general, these are my 4 building blocks of what makes for a good virtual meeting. And those are simplicity, routine, interaction, and fun. First of all is simplicity. And I really encourage you not to try to do too much in a virtual meeting. So pick 1 or 2 tasks or topics to discuss and arrange all of the activities around that task. So it might mean stretching some things a little bit longer than you normally would if you were meeting in person, but that's okay. You know, maybe you wouldn't spend an entire evening on knots, for example, or you wouldn't spend an entire evening only on 3 knots, you know, but it's okay to simplify at this point. And less is more when it comes to online learning, because the more you try to cram into a time period, the less the kids are going to take in. It's much better to keep it simpler, even for those older scouts. Consider what common supplies they have. Most of our scouts have been distance learning at this point. So, you know, obviously they should have their scout books, paper and pencil, but if you need them to bring something, if you need them to bring some rope, if you are doing knots, if you need them to bring a bandana, to practice a tourniquet, if you want them to bring a towel so they can practice flag folding. You know, there are things that they would probably have at home that make for good props to practice. So be sure to communicate that to those scouts ahead of time so they can have everything prepped and with them for the start of a meeting. And definitely keep things short and sweet. No more than 1 hour for online meetings. Any longer than that, it gets to be really too long. And even 1 hour is pushing it. 45 minutes is kind of a sweet spot when it comes to online meetings. After that, I find the attention span really dwindles. Less time actually is more effective and can be more fun. And make sure you split the time between learning and time for social interaction and fun. We have to remember that these scouts aren't being able to really see their friends and family or friends in the same way that they normally would at school. They're not seeing their friends at scouts in person in the same way they normally would. And so giving them that social time continues that social bonding that scouting provides, as well as the advancement that we do in all of the fun activities. Please keep the routine in scouting. It will bring comfort to the kids, even as everything is changing. So open with the pledge, the Scout Oath and Law. Consider asking scouts to record or create a virtual flag ceremony. You could either record themselves doing a flag ceremony, or you could create it. I have seen ones created in Minecraft and other games like that, for example. So they could be creative and create their own flag ceremonies to share for patrol or troop meetings. I recommend you try to keep a virtual meeting similar to what you did in your in-person meeting, because that familiarity is going to be comforting to them as well. And again, plan it time for check-ins with the scouts to see how everyone's doing, see how it's going with social blah 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 blah, with distance learning, with how things are going, and give everyone a chance to engage on that personal level as well. Definitely we want to have some interaction. The more interaction we have, the more engaged those scouts are going to be. Call on scouts by name to answer questions, and be sure to call on all the scouts. Don't just ask for people to raise their hand or volunteer. I really suggest, just calling on people, because it really keeps engagement going. Obviously, don't put anyone on the spot, but we do want to keep all kids going. If you're doing an activity, doing knots, doing any sort of things like that, have all the scouts show their work to the camera. Ask lots of questions. And I also encourage you to play lots of games. We do this in Cub Scout virtual meetings all the time, but it works really well for Scouts BSA as well. And there are a wide variety of games that you can do for fun, but there are also a wide variety of games that you can do that tie into the advancement activities and the merit badges that you're doing. So there are Kahoot quizzes that you can either set up yourself and write yourself, or you can find a variety of ones. You can search on it, and there are dozens and dozens of Scout ones that you can go find on a wide variety of topics. You can set up a Jeopardy type board. There are bingo games you can do. You can do scavenger hunts, are very popular, where you have them go find something that relates to what you're studying. or just go find something, like go find a key and go find a coin and go find a marker and, you know, like random things, and they have fun with that. And then there are online games that the Scouts BSA will have fun that are just purely social, that are fun to play. So Among Us and Jackbox games and other games like that. There are online platforms where you can play categories and Taboo and games like those online as well, Yahtzee and things like that. And sometimes having just game nights and fun social interaction is a good thing for your scouts and a good time for them to have. And that brings me to my last point, which is don't forget to have fun. You know, I think we get worried about wanting to do it things well, but we want to make sure that we're having fun, because if we're having fun, the kids are going to be having fun too. And really the important thing is to put a lot of joy into it right now. It's not an ideal situation that we are in. No one would prefer to be meeting virtually right now, but we have the option to still be meeting as opposed to not. And so it's an opportunity that we have, and let's make the most of it. So that's kind of my portion. So I think we're going to open it up to questions that anyone has of myself or Alex or Eric about platforms or tips or ideas of virtual meetings, or things that you've discovered that work well, or problems you've run into, anything at all.
Has anyone
And I will say that
or unsuccessfully done virtual meetings with your troop?
Troop 25 has done some.
Yeah, we've done some, and we did some with my Cub Scout den too. We dropped off bags for them last week and for this week, and that was fun. The Boy Scouts the other night, yeah, we did we've done a couple Boy Scout ones too, with more informational stuff the other night. And then next week I'm gonna do some leadership training. And we talked about our seniors.
so what kinds of activities have you done with your scouts on virtually?
Well, can I just go with the Cub Scouts? We virtually visited zoos in Australia, Miami, and San Diego last week. So not the Boy Scouts, we haven't done that, but the Cub Scouts we did. So that was fun.
Dan, what have you guys done virtually as a troop?
We did some, the older scouts did citizenship in the world. And the first year scouts, we are working on advancement.
Anybody else do anything or have ideas?
Troop 24 has pretty much been continuing to meet either in person when it was allowed, and then when not allowed, then we were doing the virtual through Zoom. We've had some where we do our opening and then we'll split off into patrols and have 2 different Zooms going on simultaneously and then come back for a closing. Most recently, we started working on the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge as a unit. Not everything's obviously going to be able to be done virtually with that, but a lot of the legwork type things can be done that way.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge trying to do some of this stuff virtually. You know, you just have to kind of get a little bit creative, and you know, I wouldn't stress over too much about what you can't do, but focus on what you can do. You know, it might be, you know, teaching a new skill. You know, maybe talking about, you know, maybe when we can get together, you know, what do we want to, you know, do, like camp out, you know, maybe start talking about summer activities. I mean, it's going to be here before we know it. Hey, what do you want to do in June, July, and August outside of summer camp? Let's start talking about those kinds of things.
I agree with you on that, Eric.
and
We've been talking about since last summer, a canoe trip down the Minnesota, a 5-day camping / canoe trip with the scouts. And we're still planning on that's going to happen. We're not giving up. And so we're doing some of these other types of things to prepare for that. Gives the scouts something to look forward to. That's going to be, all together outdoors, hopefully.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And if you can do some of those things, teach some, as I always tell troops that I work with, if you want to do a canoeing trip like that, you don't just suddenly say on Monday we're going to go do it and then do it on Saturday. It takes months of preparation and planning and making sure everybody knows how to swamp a canoe and what a paddle is and how to paddle forward and backward. And some of that stuff you can talk about or demonstrate virtually. Others of it will have to be done in person, but there's some of that stuff you can do now. I don't think you can do everything, but I think you can do, some CPR stuff virtually, get part of the certification virtually. So if there's kids that want to do that, but yeah, anything you can do, plan out your route, I'm talking about the canoe trip, but hey, plan out your route. Where are you going to go? What are we going to eat when we get there? Or what are we going to do? So yeah, keep kids busy. So that's good. I'm glad you guys are starting to talk about those. Yeah, Marquita.
I trained them on Scout Book. We were in person, and then when we went, we had to stop. I finished it up. I followed it up the next week, and they were supposed to all have signed in and showed them how to move around, how to put their advancement in, because a lot of them weren't using it yet, or we weren't using it very well. So that was something you could do online, and you could actually, I logged into one of the scouts and I used my account and one of the mom's accounts, so I could show them different things, what they could do, and show them how it feels in their Eagle Scout application. It's a report, and you pull it up and it shows exactly where you are in your Eagle Scout application. So I think that was a good use of our time.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I haven't heard that one before. So I make sure we add that, Alex, maybe make sure to add that to the list of suggestions. Take some time and help your families navigate that. I know some units have struggled just getting parents to log in and accept the invites or however that exactly works, and so yeah, that'd be a great use of your time to get people on that and navigating that and how does that all work. And so yeah, absolutely, I think that's a great resource. Another idea is you could do some training. I know there's some den chief training. We were talking about that the other day with a Cub Scout pack. They were asking, how can we work with the troop more, and how can we get some kids to be mentors? And I talked about the den chief program, and so they're going to work to do some training to teach the troop and work back and forth with the pack on that. So yeah, I think that those are some great ideas, thinking outside the box there.
I forgot to mention before that if your AOLs have to visit the troop, they can visit a virtual meeting. They can virtually visit your troop meeting.
Sure. And that's something you're just probably, I would just say plan on that. I think, it's going to be really tough. I have no crystal ball. We'll probably know more next week, but I'm going to guess the governor's going to probably extend this a little further. So I'd say, start getting your kids, it's hard to believe that we've been dealing with this since March already, and so you're dealing with a whole group of Arrow of Lights that have never attended a troop function, in person. Likely. So yeah, definitely get them meeting with you, get them knowing what your troop is doing, start talking summer camp with them. It will end.
I would encourage the older kids to be a part of that planning when you invite the AOLs. They know how to navigate a lot of this. Make them plan a game or, figure out something fun that they want to do. And they'll know stuff that even I don't know that you can play online. I think it's easy to underestimate the value, especially for the older kids, of just seeing you, of just seeing their friends, seeing a positive adult that is not a member of their household, and just knowing that their troop, that their unit is thinking about them, and they're still part of the group and you care about them, and you can do something that's just fun sometimes.
Yeah. And Alex, what you just said just made me think of kind of something else, that you could do, kind of thinking outside the box is, this might be a good time to do Scoutmaster conferences with all of your scouts. A Scoutmaster conference doesn't have to be done just when a kid is ready to rank advance. It can be done anytime. So, maybe make it a point to say, hey, we're just going to set up a bunch of Scoutmaster conferences and we're just going to talk, of course, follow two-week leadership and make sure you're not one-on-one with a scout, but, have some conversations with them about, just ask them, how are you doing? How's school going? What can we be doing better? Do you have any ideas for some virtual meetings? Once we get back together, where do you want to go camping? And just start having some conversations with them about that. How are they coming on their, rank? Do they have any ideas? Some of them might be looking for leadership positions. So certainly have some out of the box thinking, thinking about those conversations. There's also what's called ILST training, which is Introduction to Leadership Skills for Troops. That's something we have to go back and look at the syllabus to see, but I'm guessing some of it can be done virtually. So again, that might be something to think about too, is teaching your scouts the basics about what does it mean to be a senior patrol leader, what does it mean to be a patrol leader, a scribe, those kinds of things. So again, different things that you can do to keep kids active, keep them going. So.
Yep, that's what I'm doing next week. I have it planned.
Excellent.
So because some of them are afraid to be the SPL or the ASPL, so I want to show them there's other positions that they can do. I don't know, and not to be afraid of it.
I
Sure.
would also remind everyone that Klondike is coming up February 6th. And I believe that we have a plan that we would be able to run it regardless right now. Believe it or not, we've come up with a plan that we could actually run with this current restrictions. So we have Klondike 2021 Survival of the Scoutist planned, and it is going to involve your patrol being crash landed into Northland, and you'll have to escape to the rendezvous point. So you will have oh, I think I froze. Did I freeze?
You're still good.
Okay. So we will be having patrols of no more than 15, including 2 deep leadership. So be mindful of that, and registration is actually going to open starting January 1st. So start to talk that up with your scouts.
I have a question.
I guess the last thing I want to, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Has anyone done or tried to do a court of honor virtually?
Not yet. We talked about a drive-by one.
I haven't heard of anyone, Marquita, but or Jane, but at least not in our area. Alex or Eric, have you?
I've had a couple of my troops bring up wanting to do it. Nobody has. So if you do, I'd love to find out, because we're also wondering. I know Troop 23 was just talking about that today. They have a couple Eagles that they haven't recognized, and they haven't decided how they want to do that. And I think they want to do it before spring, of course, to, not just keep them waiting, but no, maybe that's a conversation we need to have.
Yeah, Alex, maybe let's do just we don't have to do it now, but maybe do a little just Google searching. I bet if we search for virtual Eagle Courts or virtual Courts of Honor, probably something comes up.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day. It wasn't specifically about Courts of Honor, but we were talking about, getting the kids their awards. And what I suggested, is just simply get the awards to the parents ahead of time, and then just conduct the ceremony virtually. You know, you're recognizing the kids, you're going around and congratulating them, and then when Johnny gets awarded his stuff, mom or dad's standing right there to pass them out to him and congratulate them on whatever it is they worked on. If you've got some scouts that have done some skits, I guess I don't know what everybody does for their Courts of Honor. I've seen scouts do skits at Courts of Honor before. I mean, you can do some of that, Scoutmaster minutes. I mean, so I think it's doable. You just got to get it creative and start, distribute stuff ahead of time to people. But I think, if you just probably even Googled virtual Courts of Honor, you could do that. Trying to do an in-person one. I mean, even though you can technically get 15 people together, that's not very many people. So you're probably better off trying to do something virtually. And frankly, I wouldn't wait. I would come up with some way, especially if you've had these awards for 3-4 months, by the time that you can actually put something together, it may be summer. And so I think it's really important to get the awards and recognize the kids as soon as you can after they earn the awards. You can always, at the very least, you can always, or not the very least, you can always go ahead and present them the physical awards, and then later on down the road, do something in person. But to me, there's nothing worse than saying, okay, here's the 15 merit badges you've earned, over the last year, and unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about them all. So, try to, again, just a few ideas, and maybe we can Google something and see if somebody's come up with something. I'm sure people have. Obviously, we just don't know of anybody that has. I think you just get creative. So, and frankly, that's probably something you could put your scouts on. Say, hey, let's have a Court of Honor. What do you guys think? How do we do it? And kind of get their brains working and saying, what do we do and how do we do it and who could facilitate it? And I'm sure they can come up with something.
We're having one Sunday afternoon at 3:30. Dan, you know the details more than I do. It's a drive-through, right?
Yep. It's going to be kind of like a drive-in. We're going to have a speaker system. I'm going to announce it. They can, roll down their windows. And then I'm going to run their badges out to them. I'll be fully masked.
Awesome.
Yep. So we're going to try anyway. We got a lot of badges and some advancement to give out. I don't want to hold it back from them.
That's a great idea. I think you definitely should take some pictures of that, Dan, and I don't know if your troop has a Facebook page, post them on there, or get them to Alex and we'll post them on our page, because I think that's a great thing to showcase to other troops. Hey, here's what somebody's doing amid COVID, to still recognize kids. So, Liz, you were going to jump in?
Well, I was going to say, if you had a couple Eagles to recognize too, perhaps families would be comfortable with a leader going over to each house and you zooming. You could still have a virtual ceremony, but you could have a leader at each house presenting the award, so that you could have it on Zoom so everyone else could see and witness it, but you could have the in-person pieces be visible then to everybody and done.
If your troop has a Facebook page, you could do it that way too and have your leader, go live on there and they'd be able to see it.
Yeah.
Great ideas. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas?
I have just one idea. For those of us that are on Facebook, there are tons of Facebook groups out there, specifically for merit badge counselors to do merit badge counselor swaps with troops. I've done that quite a bit this last spring and summer, teaching kids from well outside of the state even, as kind of like an exchange, where I would do a badge for them, and then they would do something for us in exchange. I don't have any specific addresses off the top of my head, but if you just did a search in Facebook for scouting merit badge counselors, there's 5 or 6 very active groups of people who are more than willing to help out if you don't have counselors readily available, or if there's a specific badge that your kids are looking for that may not be offered around here. So I would highly encourage checking that out as well.
Okay, sounds great. So, again, you know, we'll stick on as long as we need to answer questions and talk as much as you want, but we don't want people to feel like if you're ready to go, we know it's getting late. One thing I did want to add too is for those that maybe have not done virtual before, sometimes half the battle is just getting your first meeting under your belt. So Alex, Liz, and myself are more than happy to help you get started, whether it's running the technology side of things. You know, sometimes you just need somebody to facilitate the meeting because you just don't know how to use the technology. Sometimes you just need somebody to maybe help give you an idea or bounce off ideas and just come up with something. We're happy to help. We're certainly not experts. I mean, you guys are the ones in the field doing this, but certainly we can help you come up with some creative ways to do whatever it is you want to try to do. But I think the important thing is meet. That is the important thing. Don't just stop meeting because you can't meet in person or it's difficult. It's really important to do something to keep these kids active, because if you don't, you know, outside of them interacting with their peers at school, you know, electronically in most cases, there isn't really a whole lot kids can do. They can't go to the movies, they can't go out to eat, they can't, you know, or they shouldn't be doing certain things, I guess. And so, you know, there isn't much for kids to do. And if it's not for us, I don't know who else is going to provide some sort of program for them. So we want to keep these kids active and keep them excited and keep them motivated. You know, because again, hopefully this is behind us sooner rather than later, but we just don't know. So again, thanks everybody for coming. Again, we'll stick on if you want to chat more or have other questions, or again, if you need you need more hands-on help, a one-on-one kind of thing, just let us know. Alex, I, and Liz will put our contact information in the chat, and you can contact us if you have questions or need anything. So.
I have a question about Zoom. We were in a Zoom meeting and we broke out into rooms, and the guys couldn't. I played a couple video, that Zoo thing, and they couldn't hear. And I don't know why, if I had to do something special.
When you're
Sure.
showing a video, or go ahead, Eric.
No, you're fine. You're go for it.
When you're showing a video in Zoom, you have to make sure you are sharing your computer audio.
Okay, was sharing because I was sharing my screen then, but not my audio.
Yep.
So where do you share your audio? Is it on? Is it part of the video too?
If you click on the arrow next to your microphone, there's a way, and also on share screen, in the advanced. Well, let's see where it is. I don't have it up right now.
Because we did the share screen. I've done that,
yeah.
but the audio. So.
Liz, can you make me the host, and I can show everybody on screen exactly how to do that.
I can. There you go.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Okay. You guys keep talking. If there's other questions, it's gonna take me a minute to pull this up. So
we're doing it again tomorrow night. Because we were at the Australia Zoo, and Robert was talking. He was Steve. Oh, his dad, died.
Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin. So it's Robert Irwin was talking, and he's so excitable, and they couldn't hear him. I was disappointed.
What I'm going to hopefully show you here is, let's see, I have to log into the administrative side of things here. So what I'm going to show you is actually, normally you can't see the Zoom controls. So I'm going to show you, show my Zoom. Okay, yeah. So I think I'm going to just share my screen here, and I hope Liz or Alex, tell me if you can see my Zoom controls. So can you see the Zoom controls on the bottom of my screen? Okay. So when you click on, when you want to share your screen, let me get this out of the way. When you share your screen, click screen share, And then here in the lower left-hand corner, it says share my computer sound. So you want to check that. And then anything you show on your computer that has audio, it will pipe it through Zoom to show you. I also recommend keeping this one that says optimize screen sharing for video clips. So if you are showing a video, keep that unchecked. Most of the time, we don't have enough bandwidth because of just how Zoom has changed their platform to be able to do that. Basically, what it's doing is being able to show you a better quality video, but most people don't have the ability to have the speed to be able to do that. So check the computer. If you want to share a video, make sure share computer sound is checked. Leave the optimized screen sharing for video clip unchecked. That's my recommendation. So, but that's again how you share your video. Other questions?
Can you show that one more time? I was writing, so I kind of looked.
Yep, no problem.
Sorry.
No problem. Nope, that's okay. That's okay. So you click screen share, and then in the lower left-hand corner, it says share computer sound. You check that, and they'll be able to hear whatever audio is coming through your computer. In addition to you talking, they'll be able to hear any videos, anything you want to show them. So.
Okay.
Yep. Sounds good. Any other questions anybody has? Okay. Well, sounds good. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. We will be editing this video slightly and then putting all the resources out online for everybody to take a look at, and then give us till the end of the week to get it out. But we'll get it out so that way if you want to watch it again or you want some of these resources, we'll have those out to you then. So sounds great, everybody. Have a good night.